Come on, computer, you can do it. Okay, so we've started recording. We are getting onto the home stretch. It is our penultimate lecture, which means you should be well on the road to having completed your essay. If there are any bits from the lectures that you're not happy with, anything on Moodle that you're not sure about, any questions that you still have that you want to follow up with, remember that next week's lecture will be a catch-up. Okay, so it's whatever you want to do. So I'm not going to prepare anything. Anything that you need, let me know, and that's what we'll be doing. You can either let me know beforehand, or you can just ask me on the day. Either way, it's for you guys to let me know what you fancy. Okay. Come on, slow computer. Come on, very slow computer. And don't forget the submission date for your... Sorry, I thought I turned all these off. The submission date for your report is the 18th of January. So basically what we said was gives you time to do it, gives you time to come back. If you get anything to ask, you can ask on the 14th, and that still gives you time to submit on the 18th. That said, I would kind of expect you to have done it by then, okay? Don't be expecting just to ignore it, come back in January and bash out an essay that's going to cover everything that's required. All right, everyone happy with that? Everyone know what we're doing? Any questions?
No.
Okay. In that case, what we'll do is we will jump straight into the final lecture, which is on control. So we've talked a wee bit about control before. The idea that there are legislative requirements that all organisations have to comply with, but also there might be further things that organisations want to do, things that make sense to them as a business or as a charity or as whatever it is they are. So you might want to set up certain thresholds, things where you say, look, not happy with this. We have 10 delivery vehicles. If we go down to 9, we can probably sort it out. If we go down to 8, we can do it with overtime. But if we go down to 7, we're absolutely stuffed. So set a control for 9 to say, might be a problem worth keeping an eye on. Set one for 8 to say, look, you are going to have a problem here. We're already into overtime. And one at 7 to say all hands on deck because you are completely and utterly stuffed. So they're prompted by anything that might go wrong. something that would affect the organisation, either from a business continuity service, a business continuity approach, or from a financial approach, or from an HR approach. You're running a call center. You normally have 100 people, and suddenly you're down to 70 with COVID. That's an issue. And it's up to you where those issues appear. So just like we did with delivery vans, we can set thresholds where certain things happen. So controls are internal triggers, places where we say something has happened that we don't want to happen. As I say, it might not be illegal, but it's certainly not helpful for our business. We have made a payment, and that payment is over our internal threshold for which it should be signed off by a manager. What's happened here? Because it hasn't been signed off. We have awarded a contract where the person awarding the contract is also the person who has evaluated the contract. So only one person's eyes have been on this. That's an issue. So whatever policies exist in your organisation in order to ensure that your business works properly, you can set triggers for and say, okay, we're not happy with this. What should we do? It also can feed into something called a dashboard that a lot of organisations are very keen on these days. So back to our call centre, you might have a big screen up on the wall saying number of calls answered within 10 seconds, number of calls answered within 5 rings, number of calls answered within 30 seconds, number of calls dropped. And if you start dropping lots of calls, you'll probably find a manager wandering out onto the floor seeing what's happening. Who knows, they may even pick up a phone themselves. So you can set triggers, you can set procedures, you can set things to happen if these aren't being reached. So the organisation can watch these dashboards, can get the triggers, whether it's an email or some people set it up at texts. For you guys, it might be that the amount of data coming into our centre has suddenly multiplied by 10. Do we have a DOS going on? And you might get a text on your phone to say, go check this out quickly. So it could come any way, but it's to do with key information and it's to do with how the organisation works properly and which bits aren't and would need some attention drawn to them. So we've got different types of control. We have preventative controls, things that stop other things happening. And again, you guys know all about that. How many of you would be happy if absolutely anybody had access to your firewall software, or had admin access to your routers and could set them up any way they wanted, or could even just log in as an administrator on your system? So you set controls to stop that happening. You set controls to say, no, only certain people can log in, only certain people have access. Only certain people can see these kinds of files and not others. Only people that work in HR can see your personnel file. The people that work in accounts or facilities management can't. So that you put in place all sorts of preventative controls in order to ensure that certain things can't happen. But that can be extended out. If only the people who work in accounts are allowed to see the accounts data, well, perhaps only authorised signatories are able to authorise a bank transfer in order to pay accounts. So you don't give it to everybody who's on the phone taking a payment. You only give it to those people who are able to authorise a transfer on behalf of the organisation. Or maybe that you need 2 people to do that. Clearly, because you have these systems on computers, this sort of thing becomes a lot easier. There's no checkbook sitting about where somebody can forge a signature. Quite often with checkbooks, you would require 2 signatures for a business account or an organisation's account. Now, what happens if somebody forges a signature? What would happen if somebody's away on holiday and just said, oh, I'll sign a dozen checks before I go in case you need anything? Suddenly the one person left can do anything they want. We use the same kind of idea with electronic transfers. We need 2 people to sign off. Of course, that is of no help whatsoever if your security on your system isn't good enough and the same people who are signing off your transfers can sign into multiple accounts. I've often had to do security audits for organisations, and I've quite often made a bet with the people in charge of security that I can get access to their system and that I can do it within 15 minutes. Now, it relies on it being a reasonable sized organisation, and it's dead simple. I come into their offices, I wait for people to leave, and when people have left, I wander around. And invariably, you will find post-its with people's usernames and passwords. If they're making it for me, they'll put it up on the screen. If they're making it hard, they'll put it in their top drawer, and all I need to do is open the drawer and find their username and their password. So security becomes an issue where you have that type of security, which is why there's a lot of changes being made. So simple things like Google Hello or Apple Face ID, where it has to recognize you, or whether you have to use a fingerprint, or where you have to use whatever you call it when it looks into your eyes to figure out what you need. Retina, that's the one. Because it's far too easy for just a simple username and password to be hacked, usually with a social hack rather than a difficult one. Of course, we are responsible for some of that ourselves. How many times have you seen an email saying, it's time to set up your new password? It has to have at least one lowercase letter, one uppercase letter, one number, one symbol, but it's got to be from this list of symbols, but not from that list of symbols. Don't use the ones in those list of symbols, those are banned, but the ones in this one, they are required. No wonder end users end up just saying, no, I'll just use the same password because it's all I can remember. Or they write it down because they can't remember it at all. Quick hint, the only real barrier to a password-based security system is length. Require a long password. Not all the other nonsense, just make sure it's at least 18 characters. Tell somebody to remember a poem and use that as a password. It's the only way it works. The more characters you add, the harder it is to break. And once you get to about 18, you're absolutely fine. And if they want to use numbers and they want to use upper and lowercase, let them have at it, but don't force them. What you want to make sure is that the right people have the right access to the right information at the right time. That requires some discipline, and it requires some discipline on our sides as well. It requires us setting up the systems properly to ensure that there are proper groups and proper security settings for the different departments, say, so that accounting gets access to accounting and HR to HR and so on. And if it's not enforced, if nobody actually takes any notice of it, and somebody in HR gets a transfer to accounts, and nobody remembers to update the systems, all of a sudden, the HR people have accounts data and vice versa. So it takes discipline, it takes enforcement. And again, that's where you guys come in. The clue's in the name, it's cybersecurity. So it's not all just about the fun stuff, all the new gadgets, the new software, the new hardware. It's about understanding what the policy should be. It's about understanding what the business requires. It's about understanding that that needs constant enforcement and constant change. And that's down to you guys. Because you have the overall view of how everything works, both on the business and on the IT side, and you have the ability to bring those together with your systems. Because if you don't, we can have a problem. Now, actually, and counterintuitively, this is actually easier in a larger organization. Because in a larger organization, people tend to have defined roles. Because the organization is big enough for people to have defined roles. Yes, they're accounts. They don't need to do accounts and HR and shipping and all the rest of it. But it is hard to manage because there are more people. In a smaller organization where there's not that segregation, where they do have multiple sets of responsibilities, that becomes trickier. So those are preventative controls. As I say, you should be fairly clear on those. It's just what you've been doing for your access control lists and things like that, but continued out to all the systems and all the functionality that they provide. The next one is the stuff that I was talking about earlier. What do you do if something goes wrong? A detective control. You detect something has happened or something hasn't happened, and you have to fix it. So something goes on, you've set up some sort of policy or some sort of trigger that says this is incorrect. When that happens, it's flagged and someone is notified. And you might just ask, well, why don't you just stop them doing it in the first place? Which is a reasonable question. You could, for example, set up a rule that says nobody can transfer more than £100 back to a customer unless they have management approval, which is a reasonable rule. But what if it's lunchtime when you're working in a shop and somebody comes in to return their laptop? Do you tell them to come back in an hour because the manager's at lunch? Or do you have some sort of override in place to say, you know that you're not allowed to do this? Yes, I do. Do you want to do it anywhere? Anyway? Yes, I'm afraid I have to. And then at some point, at a later time, someone will look at that and say, yeah, that was overridden, but it's okay. Or not. It could be that someone's gone to lunch and somebody's just happily handed out lots of cash. Either way, it gives you that kind of flexibility. Okay, something's happened. You need to look at it and decide what to do about this. Give them some wiggle room, but know that it will happen. Yes, you can override. I'm taking a note. Someone will be in touch. Now, this can all be done manually. Someone has a refund. You write out a slip that says Fred Flintstone was refunded £150 at 12:32 on the 10th of December 2020. Lovely. You get a wee bit of paper, which heads off into the accounts department. And somebody in accounts looks at it and goes, oh, look, refund. Let's take a note of that. Well, wait a minute. It's 150. They shouldn't have given 150. They should only have given 100. Is that okay? Oh, pick up the phone, phone the manager. Listen, Fred Flintstone was given a refund of 150. Is that okay? Who's Fred Flintstone? Oh, well, Barney gave him a refund. I don't know anything about it. It all becomes very complicated. You need to check records, you need to analyze them, you need to follow them up. You need someone who's familiar with it. If the person who got that in didn't even know that there was a limit of 100, it might just work its way through. And of course, it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and as ever, that equates to a lot of money, which again is where we come in. We know about IT and we can set up rules, we can set up limits, we can set up tests, not on the ones that we happen to notice, but every single record, every single transaction, every single choice. The cost of adding these in is next to zero. The cost of checking with them is next to zero. Once you've put it in, it's there and it exists. So automated controls are a very helpful tool for any organization. And as I pointed out weeks and weeks back, they are loved by management because it gives them some comfort that at some point they're not going to see the police come through the front door and say, now, about this fraud that you were party to, when they don't know anything about it. Or even worse, when they do know something about it, I suppose. So there will be all sorts of detective violations built into our systems, whether to stop it altogether or to allow leeway and say, yeah, well, I'm recording this, by the way, so if you are doing something bad, you better have your flight to Brazil already booked, and it's leaving in the next hour. Set it up automatically. As I say, costs are next to. Do you guys hear that? Sounds like the roof fell in. Set it up automatically, and the costs are next to zero. You may still get errors, but only because you've set it up incorrectly. The errors are in the setup, not in the implementation. It's faster. It happens with everything, so it goes into all the systems and it does all the checking for all the systems. There's no question of, well, do we do this one, or do we do this one, or it's 5:30 and I really need to go home, so let's just forget this until next week. It will happen simultaneously with the actual transaction, with the actual action itself. Not only that, everything's recorded. At 12:32, Fred Flintstone was given a refund. It was authorised by Barney. The cost was 150. And yes, Barney did press the button that says, this is a genuine refund. It also gives you the opportunity to analyse, because once you have all those things recorded, once they're all in there, you can start looking at them. How many times has there been an alert because someone's given a refund over £100? If it's happening 20, 30 times a day, maybe you want to check that rule and say, well, okay, let's up the floor limit to £200 without it being an issue. Or there's far too much money going out without people checking, let's bring it down. So you can do all this analysis on all the data, which again is where we come in, because that's what computers are really good at. That sort of thing, the analysis, the change, is something called a mitigating control. So it's where we've found an issue, we've figured out what's gone wrong and we need to fix it. So we'll have a policy in there, a set of steps, things that we'll have to do in order to fix what's gone wrong. And it could just be a check of a box to say, yep, this was absolutely fine, don't worry about it. But it could be, we need to absolutely check all our inbuilt policies, because this should never have happened. This person should never have had the complete opportunity to authorize all these payments. Questions? Let me guess. You all logged in, then went away again. There's absolutely nobody listening.
Yeah, here.
There's no question.
No question.
No questions at all today.
All right. Oh, Emmanuel is there. How are you? You've suddenly got very big on my screen anyway. Okay. If there's no questions, where are we? Come on, computer. Okay, so there's a tutorial for the lecture today. So it's the same as usual. It's about what's going on, but of course that should feed into your final report. So again, it's giving you a pointer towards what should be in there. Okay, what I'm going to do is, if there's no questions, I am going to stop the recording.